They called her broken, defective, a wolfless omega too pathetic to even shift. But Nora Hale wasn't wolfless. She was hiding the one thing that could get her skinned alive, a white wolf with silver eyes and ancient blood. The liquid in the vial was a murky, ashen gray. It smelled like charcoal and copper, like something that had died and been burned. Nora's hands shook as she uncorked it, the glass clinking softly against the chipped porcelain of the bathroom sink. "Drink it, Nora," she whispered to herself, staring into the cracked mirror. Drink it or die. Her reflection was a ghost. Pale skin stretched over sharp cheekbones, dark circles carved deep beneath eyes that used to be a bright hazel, but were now dulled by exhaustion and pain. At 23, she looked 35. Her hands were red and raw from the lye soap she used to scrub the floors of the pack house, and her uniform, a shapeless gray rag meant for the lowest omegas, hung loosely on her starving frame. She tipped the vial back. The ashroot concentrate burned her throat like liquid fire, coating her tongue with bitterness that made her gag. It hit her stomach and twisted, sending a wave of nausea crashing through her. She gripped the sink, knuckles white, retching silently. She couldn't throw it up. She had to keep it down. Deep inside her, her wolf Celine whimpered. She was weak, sedated by the poison Nora fed them every morning. It was torture. It was like chaining a hurricane inside a glass jar and forcing it to watch the world through a keyhole. But it was necessary. If the Raven Ridge Pack knew what she was, she wouldn't be scrubbing floors. She would be mounted on a wall or sold to the highest bidder, her pelt worth more than a kingdom's treasury. White wolves were supposed to be extinct. Legends. Myths whispered around fires to frighten children. But Nora knew the truth. She was real. And she was hunted. The suppressant dulled Celine's presence, muted her power, made Nora appear as nothing more than a broken omega who had never shifted. For 5 years, she had lived this lie. 5 years of swallowing poison. 5 years of being kicked, beaten, humiliated. 5 years of surviving. It started the day Garrett Thorne rejected her. The memory surfaced like a knife to the ribs. She had been 18, young and hopeful, standing in the center of the pack circle during the mating ceremony. Garrett had been her childhood friend, the beta's son, strong and charming. When he approached her, she thought it was a blessing. She thought the moon goddess had finally smiled on her. Instead, he looked her dead in the eyes and said, "I, Garrett Thorne, reject you, Nora Hale, as my mate. You are defective. Broken. I will not tie myself to weakness." The bond snapped like a breaking bone. Pain exploded through her chest, white-hot and agonizing. She collapsed to her knees while the pack laughed. No one helped her. No one cared. That night, Celine had tried to surface for the first time, desperate to protect them, to fight back. But Nora knew what would happen if anyone saw her. So she found the traveling healer at the edge of pack territory, a rogue woman with scars on her face and secrets in her eyes, and begged for something, anything, to keep her wolf hidden. The woman gave her ashroot. A poison that would kill a normal wolf, but only sedate a Luna-bonded bloodline. "Drink this every morning," the healer had said. "And pray no one ever forces you to shift." Nora had been drinking it ever since. She quickly hid the vial behind a loose brick in the wall, splashed cold water on her face, and ran. Downstairs, the kitchen was in chaos. Steam rose from giant pots and the scent of roasted venison filled the air, but underlying the food was the sharp, acrid scent of anxiety. The pack members were tense, moving like ants whose hill had been kicked. Dishes clattered. Voices barked orders. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Maris, the head omega, was standing by the center island looking like a viper coiled to strike. She was a large woman with a cruel mouth and eyes that gleamed with malice whenever Nora was near. She wore a clean apron, her graying hair pulled into a severe bun. "Where have you been?" she snapped, stepping into Nora's personal space. She smelled of sweat and cheap soap. "The Alpha King arrives in 3 hours. 3 hours. And you're wandering around like a lazy rat." "I was cleaning the upstairs lavatory," Nora said quietly, keeping her eyes on the floor. Eye contact was seen as a challenge. Challenges got her beaten. Maris scoffed and kicked a bucket of dirty water over, the liquid spreading across the tiles Nora had just dried. "Well, you missed a spot." Clean it up. Then get to the ballroom. Alpha Tobias wants every piece of silver polished until he can see his reflection in it. Move. Yes, Maris. Nora dropped to her knees, grabbing a rag from the nearby counter. As she soaked up the water, she heard voices whispering nearby. Two younger pack members, Jessica and Tara, were huddled by the stove, their excitement barely contained. Can you believe the Alpha King is actually coming here? Jessica whispered, her voice trembling with awe. King Damon Cross. They say he's 7 feet tall and has killed 100 rogues with his bare hands. He's not coming for rogues, Tara said, her tone smug. He's coming for a bloodline inspection. Something about missing royal families. Do you think he'll find his mate here? Maybe. Vivian thinks he's looking for someone specific. She heard Alpha Tobias talking about it last night. Nora kept her head down, scrubbing the floor in slow, careful circles. Her heart was pounding. A bloodline inspection. That meant blood tests. That meant forced shifts for anyone who couldn't prove their lineage. Panic clawed at her throat, but she forced it down. She had survived 5 years. She could survive this. Nora. Maris's voice cut through the kitchen like a whip. Stop eavesdropping and get moving. The ballroom won't clean itself. Nora stood, wringing out the rag, and hurried toward the back hallway. She passed other Omegas carrying trays and linens, all of them moving with the same hunted urgency. No one looked at her. No one ever did. She was invisible. Less than nothing. The ballroom was a massive space with high ceilings and crystal chandeliers that caught the morning light and scattered it like broken glass. Long tables were being set with fine china and silverware that gleamed under the scrutiny of the beta's mate, Vivian. She was a beautiful woman with sharp features and a sharper tongue, dressed in a deep blue gown that cost more than Nora would ever see in her lifetime. Finally, Vivian said, her eyes narrowing as Nora approached. I was beginning to think you'd died somewhere. Start with the silver. And if I see a single smudge, you won't eat for a week. Yes, ma'am. Nora picked up a polishing cloth and got to work. Her hands moved automatically, buffing each fork, knife, and spoon until they shone. Around her, the pack house buzzed with preparation. Servants rushed past carrying flowers and wine. Guards polished their armor. Everyone was on edge. She heard footsteps behind her and felt the hairs on the back of her neck rise. Well, look who's still here. Garrett. Nora didn't turn around. She kept polishing, kept her breathing steady. He walked around to face her, and she was forced to see him. Garrett Thorne was handsome in the way predators were handsome. Sharp jaw, cold blue eyes, a body built for violence. He had his arm around Clara Voss, his chosen mate, a slender blonde with a cruel smile. I'm surprised they're letting you stay for the inspection, Garrett said, his tone mocking. What's the point? Everyone knows you can't shift. Defective little Nora. Clara laughed, a high, grating sound. Maybe the king will take pity on her and put her out of her misery. Nora's jaw clenched, but she said nothing. Silence was survival. Silence kept her alive. Garrett leaned closer, his breath hot against her ear. You should thank me, you know. I saved you from a life of disappointment. No one would want a mate who can't even shift. You're lucky I let you stay in this pack at all. He straightened and walked away, Clara giggling at his side. Nora's hands were shaking. Celine stirred inside her, a flicker of rage pushing against the ashroot's hold, but Nora shoved her back down. Not now. Not ever. The hours passed in a blur of polishing, scrubbing, and silent endurance. By mid-afternoon, the pack house was spotless. Every surface gleamed. Every flower was arranged. Every guard stood at attention. And then the horn sounded. The Alpha King had arrived. The entire pack was summoned to the arena, a massive open space at the center of the territory surrounded by stone seating. Nora was shoved to the back with the other low-ranking Omegas, far from the front where the Alpha and his inner circle stood. She could barely see over the crowd, but she felt the shift in the air the moment the king's entourage entered. Power. Raw, undeniable, suffocating power. Alpha King Damon Cross walked into the arena like a force of nature. He was tall, easily 6.5 feet, with broad shoulders and a presence that made the air feel heavier. His hair was dark, almost black, and his eyes were a molten gold that seemed to see everything. He wore black leather and silver armor, a sword strapped to his back, and moved with the lethal grace of a predator who had never known fear. Behind him walked his guards, 12 of them, all massive and armed. They fanned out across the arena, their eyes scanning the crowd. Alpha Tobias stepped forward, a forced smile on his face. "King Damon, welcome to Ravenridge Pack. We are honored by your presence." Damon didn't smile. He looked at Tobias the way someone might look at an insect. "Let's skip the pleasantries, Alpha. I'm here for one reason, a bloodline inspection. There are missing royal families scattered across the territories, and I intend to find them." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Nora's stomach dropped. Damon continued, his voice carrying across the arena like a blade. "Every unmated wolf in this pack will be tested. Blood drawn. Lineage verified. And every wolf will shift in front of me. No exceptions." Panic exploded in Nora's chest. Shift. He was going to make them all shift. The suppressant wouldn't hold through a forced shift. The moon's pull, combined with an alpha command, would shatter her control. Selene would surface. And then everyone would know. Damon's golden eyes swept across the crowd, pausing for just a fraction of a second on Nora. She froze, her breath catching. For a heartbeat, she thought he saw her, truly saw her, but then his gaze moved on. "We begin at moonrise," Damon said. "Prepare yourselves." The crowd dispersed, whispers and nervous energy filling the air. Nora turned and ran. She sprinted back to the pack house, up the stairs, into the tiny bathroom she used. Her hands fumbled with the loose brick, yanking it free. The hiding spot was empty. The vial was gone. Nora's heart stopped. She clawed at the space, searching, desperate, but there was nothing. Someone had taken it. Someone had stolen her suppressant. Without it, the moon would pull Selene to the surface. Without it, she would shift. Without it, she would die. Her breathing came in short, shallow gasps. She sank to the floor, her back against the cold tile, her mind racing. Who took it? Why? What was she going to do? The window above her head framed the sky. The sun was sinking toward the horizon, painting the clouds in shades of gold and blood. Moonrise was in 3 hours. Nora tore through the bathroom like a wild animal, clawing at the walls, searching behind every loose stone, every crack in the tile. Nothing. The vial was gone. Her only protection, her only chance at survival, had been stolen. Her breath came in ragged gasps. The walls felt like they were closing in. She pressed her forehead against the cold porcelain sink, trying to think, trying to find a solution. But there was none. Without the ashroot suppressant, Selene would rise. The moon would pull her wolf to the surface, and when that happened, everyone would see what she truly was. She stumbled out of the bathroom and down the narrow servants' corridor, her mind racing. Maybe she could run. Pack laws forbade Omegas from leaving the territory without permission, but death by rogue attack seemed better than death by public execution. She could steal some bread, fill a canteen, and disappear into the forest before moonrise. But even as the thought formed, she knew it was useless. The king's guards were patrolling the borders. No one was getting in or out until after the inspection. She was trapped. Footsteps echoed behind her. Slow, deliberate. Nora spun around. Miriam, the pack healer, stood at the end of the hallway. She was a middle-aged woman with graying brown hair pulled into a tight braid and sharp, calculating eyes. She wore the green robes that marked her as a healer, but there was nothing kind about her expression. "Looking for something, Omega?" Miriam asked, her voice smooth as silk and just as cold. Nora's heart hammered against her ribs. "I don't know what you mean." Miriam smiled, and it was a terrible thing. "Don't play stupid with me, girl. I've been watching you for a long time. 5 years, to be exact. Ever since you started buying ashroot from that rogue healer." The blood drained from Nora's face. "I don't." "Save it." Miriam stepped closer, her footsteps clicking against the stone floor. "Do you know how rare ashroot is? How expensive? I've been tracking every purchase, every supplier. It took me 2 years to figure out why a pathetic little Omega like you would need it. And when I finally put the pieces together, well..." She laughed, a low, cruel sound. "Let's just say I've been very patient." Nora backed against the wall. "You took my vial." "Of course I did. You've been hiding too long, Nora." It's time for the world to see what you really are. Why? Nora's voice cracked. Why would you do this? Miriam's eyes glittered with greed. Do you have any idea what a white wolf is worth? Luna-bonded bloodlines are supposed to be extinct. Kings and alphas across the continent have been searching for them for decades. The power you carry, the ability to calm alpha madness, to stabilize packs, to produce heirs with royal blood. You're worth more than this entire territory. You're going to sell me? I already have. Miriam's smile widened. There are buyers waiting. Powerful ones. But first, you need to be revealed. And what better stage than in front of the Alpha King himself? Once everyone sees what you are, the bidding war will be spectacular. Rage flared inside Nora, hot and vicious. Celine stirred, pushing against the weakening barrier of the suppressant. I won't shift. I'll die before I let you use me. You don't have a choice. Miriam gestured down the hallway. The guards are waiting. They'll drag you to the arena whether you walk or not. And when the king commands you to shift, your wolf will obey. It's the law of our kind. Alpha command overrides everything. 2 guards appeared at the end of the corridor, both large males with cold expressions. They moved toward Nora like predators cornering prey. Please, Nora whispered, hating the desperation in her voice. Don't do this. Miriam turned and walked away. Take her to the arena. And make sure she doesn't run. The guards grabbed Nora by the arms, their grips like iron. She struggled, twisting and kicking, but they were too strong. They hauled her through the pack house, down the main stairs, past staring servants and sneering pack members. No one helped. No one ever did. The arena was already filling with people. Torches had been lit around the perimeter, their flames casting dancing shadows across the stone seats. The moon was rising, fat and full, its silver light spilling across the gathering like a benediction. Nora felt its pull immediately, a magnetic force that made Celine stir and growl. The guards dragged her to the center of the arena and shoved her forward. She stumbled, catching herself on her hands and knees. Dirt and gravel bit into her palms. Around her, the pack watched with hungry eyes. Alpha King Damon stood at the far end of the arena, flanked by his 12 guards. He was even more imposing up close, his golden eyes reflecting the torchlight like molten metal. He watched the proceedings with an expression of cold calculation. Alpha Tobias stepped forward, his voice booming across the space. We begin the inspection with the unmated wolves. Each will shift in turn, and blood will be drawn to verify lineage. One by one, wolves stepped into the center of the arena. They shifted easily, their transformations smooth and practiced. Browns and grays and blacks, common wolves with common blood. The king's attendants drew small vials of blood from each, labeled them, and moved on. Nora remained on her knees, her body trembling. The moon's pull was growing stronger with every passing moment. Celine was waking, clawing at the inside of her skull, demanding release. Finally, there were no more wolves left to inspect. The arena fell silent. Every eye turned to Nora. Alpha Tobias's smile was cruel. And now we come to our last subject. Nora Hale. The wolfless Omega. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Nora kept her eyes on the ground, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. This one has claimed for 5 years that she cannot shift, Tobias continued. That she is defective. Broken. But we have rules, don't we, King Damon? Everyone must prove their lineage or be cast out as rogue. Damon's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone shifts. No exceptions. Garrett pushed his way to the front of the crowd, Clara at his side. His expression was mocking, triumphant. She can't shift, Your Majesty. I was her intended mate before I rejected her. She's wolfless. Always has been. Then this will be quick, Damon said, his tone flat. Either she shifts or she's executed for deception. Omega, stand up. Nora rose on shaking legs. The moon was directly overhead now, its light pouring down like liquid silver. Celine was screaming inside her, battering against the last remnants of the suppressant's hold. Shift, Tobias commanded. Prove you have a wolf or die. I can't, Nora whispered, her voice barely audible. Louder. Tobias barked. Let the king hear your excuses. I can't shift, Nora said, her voice breaking. The crowd jeered. Someone threw a stone that struck her shoulder. She flinched but didn't move. Damon stepped forward, his massive frame cutting through the torchlight. He stopped 10 feet from her, his golden eyes boring into hers. You will shift. Now. That is an alpha command. The command hit her like a physical blow. Power rolled off him in waves, ancient and absolute, the kind of authority that made every wolf instinctively submit. Nora gasped, her knees buckling. Inside her, Celine roared. The bond between human and wolf was sacred, but alpha command was older. Primal. It bypassed choice and tore straight into instinct. Nora tried to fight it. She clenched her fists, gritted her teeth, forced her body to stay human. But the moon's pull combined with the king's command was too much. The last shreds of the suppressant's hold shattered like glass. Pain exploded through her body. Bones cracked and reformed. Her spine arched. Her skin rippled and burned. She screamed, a raw, agonized sound that echoed across the arena. And then Celine erupted. White fur burst from her skin, radiant and blinding in the moonlight. Her body twisted and grew, muscles coiling with power she had kept hidden for 5 years. Her hands became paws, her face elongated into a muzzle, her eyes blazed silver. The transformation finished in seconds. Where Nora had knelt, a massive white wolf now stood, her coat shimmering like fresh snow, her eyes glowing with ancient power. The arena went completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Celine lifted her head and the effect was immediate. Every alpha in the crowd, every warrior, every dominant wolf who had been on edge for months, who had felt the creeping madness that plagued their kind, suddenly felt calm. The rage that simmered beneath their skin cooled. The violence that lurked in their thoughts quieted. It was as if a bomb had been poured over their souls. Luna bonded, someone whispered. The words spread through the crowd like wildfire. Impossible. She's the bloodline. The white wolf. Alpha Tobias's face went pale. Garrett stared, his mouth hanging open. Clara clutched his arm, her eyes wide with fear. Then the greed set in. Capture her. Tobias shouted. She belongs to Ravenrich. She's ours. Guards surged forward, spears raised. Chains rattled. Someone shouted orders to bind her, to cage her, to claim her before the king could. Celine snarled, baring her teeth, but she was surrounded. There were too many. Too much. And then Damon moved. He crossed the space between them in 3 strides, his sword drawn, his presence a wall of fury. He stepped directly between Celine and the advancing guards, his blade raised. Touch her, he said, his voice low and lethal, and I will burn this pack to ash. The guards froze. Alpha Tobias sputtered. Your Majesty, she belongs to our pack. She was born here. She is ours by right. Damon's golden eyes blazed. She is Luna bonded. Ancient blood. Royal lineage. She answers to the crown, not to you. And if anyone in this arena so much as breathes in her direction without my permission, I will consider it an act of war. The threat hung in the air like a drawn blade. No one moved. Celine shifted back, her body collapsing into human form. Nora knelt on the ground, naked and shaking, her hair hanging in tangled waves around her face. She was covered in dirt and sweat, her body trembling with exhaustion. Damon removed his cloak in one smooth motion and draped it over her shoulders. The fabric was heavy and warm, lined with soft fur. He crouched beside her, his voice low. Can you stand? Nora nodded, though she wasn't sure it was true. Her legs felt like water. Damon slid one arm beneath her knees and the other around her back, lifting her as easily as if she weighed nothing. She gasped, clutching the cloak around herself, her face burning with humiliation and shock. She is under royal protection, Damon announced, his voice carrying across the arena. Anyone who harms her, threatens her, or attempts to claim her will answer to me personally. Is that understood? Silence. Then, slowly, the pack members began to nod. Some knelt. Others simply backed away. Alpha Tobias's jaw worked, but no sound came out. Garrett looked like he had been struck. Miriam was nowhere to be seen, vanished into the crowd like the coward she was. Damon turned and carried Nora out of the arena. His guards fell into formation around them, their expressions hard and unforgiving. No one followed. No one dared. Nora's mind was spinning. She couldn't process what had just happened. She had shifted. Everyone had seen. And the king, instead of executing her or claiming her as property, had protected her. Why? What did he want? They reached a large tent erected at the edge of the pack territory. Inside, it was lit by lanterns and furnished with a simple cot, a table, chairs, and a wash basin. Damon set her down gently on the cot and stepped back, giving her space. "There are clothes in the chest," he said, nodding toward a wooden trunk in the corner. "Take your time. I'll be outside." He turned to leave, but Nora's voice stopped him. "Why did you help me?" Damon paused, his hand on the tent flap. He looked back at her, his golden eyes unreadable. "Because you're not just rare, Nora Hale. You're the cure. And we need to talk about who tried to kill you." He left. Nora sat in stunned silence, the cloak still wrapped around her. Her body ached from the shift, her mind reeled from the revelation. She was lunabonded. Ancient blood. The words felt foreign, impossible. Slowly, she stood and moved to the chest. Inside were simple clothes, a tunic and trousers made of soft linen, far better quality than anything she had ever worn. She dressed quickly, her hands still shaking. When she emerged from the tent, Damon was waiting. He stood with his arms crossed, his guards stationed around the perimeter. He gestured to a chair near a small fire. "Sit. We have much to discuss." Nora sat, her body tense. She didn't trust this. Kings didn't help Omegas. They used them. Damon sat across from her, his expression serious. "Do you know what lunabonded means?" "No. It's a bloodline that was thought to be extinct. Wolves born with the ability to stabilize packs, to calm the madness that has been spreading through alphas for the past decade. You're not just powerful. You're a solution to a plague that's killing my kind." Nora stared at him. "I don't understand." "Alphas have been going mad," Damon explained. "Losing control, turning rogue, slaughtering their own packs. It started small, isolated incidents, but it's spreading. My advisors believe it's connected to the loss of lunabonded wolves. They were the balance. Without them, we're unstable. And you think I can fix that? I know you can." The moment you shifted, every alpha in that arena felt it. The calm. The clarity. "You're not just rare, Nora. You're essential." Nora's mind raced. This couldn't be real. She was nobody. A broken Omega who scrubbed floors. "I don't want this. I didn't ask for this." "I know." Damon's voice softened slightly. "But it doesn't change what you are. And it doesn't change the fact that someone in your pack knew. Someone isolated you, made you vulnerable, and then tried to expose you at exactly the right moment." Nora's stomach turned. "Miriam. The healer. She told me she's been watching me for 5 years. She stole my suppressant. She said I was worth more than the entire territory." Damon's expression darkened. "She's trafficking information. Selling locations of rare wolves to the highest bidder. We've been tracking her network for months." "You knew." "I suspected. But I needed proof." "Your rejection 5 years ago, was it sudden?" Nora nodded, the old wound throbbing. "Garrett and I were friends. I thought we would be mates. Then, the night of the ceremony, he rejected me in front of everyone. He said I was defective, that I couldn't shift." "Did he give a reason?" "No. Just that I was broken." Damon leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "Rejection bonds can be influenced. If someone with enough knowledge of herbs and manipulation wanted to isolate a specific wolf, they could plant suggestions, amplify doubts. It's rare, but possible." Nora's blood ran cold. "You think Miriam told him to reject me?" "I think she discovered what you were and orchestrated your isolation to keep you weak and under control. Rejected wolves are easier to manipulate. No one protects them. No one questions their suffering." The truth settled over Nora like a weight. Her rejection hadn't been about her at all. It had been a setup. A cage designed to keep her small and hidden until she could be sold. Rage flickered inside her, white-hot and vicious. Celine stirred, echoing the anger. "Where's Miriam now?" Nora asked, her voice tight. "My guards are searching. But we have bigger problems. If she's been selling information, there are others involved. Pack leadership. Traitors. Maybe even other alphas." As if summoned by his words, one of Damon's guards entered the tent, his expression grim. Your Majesty, we found letters hidden in the healer's quarters. Correspondence with rogue traders and evidence of payments from Alpha Tobias. Damon stood, his jaw clenched. Bring them here. The guard returned with a leather satchel. Damon dumped the contents onto the table. Dozens of letters spelled out, along with ledgers and maps. Nora leaned forward, scanning the pages. Her blood turned to ice. The letters detailed locations of rare wolves across the territories, descriptions of their abilities, prices, buyers, and in the margins, notes in Miriam's handwriting. White Wolf, Raven Ridge. 18 years old when discovered. Rejected and isolated. Ready for extraction during royal inspection. Nora's hands trembled as she picked up another letter. This one was addressed to someone named Corvin, a rogue alpha known for collecting rare wolves. The payment listed was staggering. Enough gold to buy a small kingdom. She was going to sell me to him, Nora whispered. Damon's expression was carved from stone. Not anymore. Another guard entered, dragging Miriam by the arm. The healer's face was defiant, her eyes flashing with anger. You have no right to arrest me. I'm a member of this pack. You're a traitor, Damon said coldly. You've been trafficking royal bloodlines for profit. That's a crime punishable by death. Miriam spat at his feet. You think you're so righteous? She's worth millions. Do you know what kind of power she represents? Alphas are dying, packs are collapsing, and you want to hoard her for yourself. I want to protect her, Damon said, his voice deadly calm. You wanted to chain her and sell her like livestock. She's not a person. Miriam shrieked. She's a resource. Her blood, her wolf, her power, it belongs to whoever can pay for it. Nora stood, her body shaking with fury. I'm standing right here. Miriam's eyes snapped to her, and for the first time, Nora saw fear flicker in them. You broke me, Nora said, her voice low and dangerous. You used me. You watched me suffer for 5 years, and you did nothing. You let them beat me. You let them humiliate me. Also, you could sell me when the price was high enough. You're nothing, Miriam hissed. You were always nothing. Celine surged forward, and Nora felt her eyes flash silver. The healer flinched. Take her to the cells, Damon ordered. She'll stand trial in the capital. The guards dragged Miriam away, her screams echoing into the night. Nora sank back into the chair, her hands covering her face. The weight of everything, the rejection, the years of abuse, the revelation of her power, crashed over her like a wave. She had spent so long trying to stay invisible, and now she was the center of everything. There's more, Damon said quietly. Alpha Tobias knew. The ledgers show payments to him. He allowed Miriam to operate in exchange for a cut of the profits. Nora's head snapped up. He sold his own pack members? Rare ones, yes. It looks like this has been happening for years. Raven Ridge Pack will be stripped of its status and disbanded. What happens to the people who live here? They'll be absorbed into neighboring packs. The innocent ones, at least. Those who were complicit will face justice. Nora should have felt satisfaction. Relief. But all she felt was hollow. A commotion outside the tent made them both turn. Shouting. The clash of steel. Damon was on his feet in an instant, his hand on his sword. Garrett burst into the tent, 2 guards struggling to hold him back. His face was wild, desperate. Wait. Please, I need to speak to her. Damon's eyes narrowed. You have nothing to say that she needs to hear. Please. Garrett wrenched free and fell to his knees in front of Nora. I was wrong. I made a mistake. You're my mate. You were always my mate. I want to fix this. Nora stared at him, disbelief flooding her veins. I reject the rejection, Garrett said, his voice pleading. I take it back. We can start over. I'll protect you. I'll make it right. For 5 years, Nora had dreamed of this moment. Of Garrett realizing his mistake. Of him begging for forgiveness. But now, looking at him kneeling there, she felt nothing but disgust. You rejected me because I was worthless, Nora said, her voice cold. Now you want me back because I'm valuable. Do you even hear yourself? I was young. I didn't understand. Miriam told me you were defective, that bonding with you would weaken me. I believed her. You believed her because it was easier than standing up for me. Garrett reached for her hand, but Nora yanked it back. Please, Nora. I'm sorry. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Nora stood, and Celine's power radiated from her, filling the tent with silver light. Garrett's eyes widened. I, Nora Hale, reject you, Garrett Thorne, as my mate. You are nothing to me. You will never be anything to me. We are done. The bond that had been broken 5 years ago shattered completely. Garrett gasped, clutching his chest as the pain hit him. Good. Let him feel what she felt. Get out, Nora said. Garrett staggered to his feet, his face pale. You'll regret this. You need me. I need no one. Damon stepped forward, his voice a low growl. She told you to leave. If you're still here in 3 seconds, I'll remove you myself. Garrett stumbled backward and fled. Nora's legs gave out. She sank back into the chair, her body trembling. Damon dismissed the guards and knelt in front of her, his expression softer than she had ever seen. You didn't need me to do that, he said quietly. You handled it yourself. I should feel better, Nora whispered. But I just feel tired. That's normal. You've been carrying weight for 5 years. It doesn't disappear in one night. Outside, the sound of fighting erupted. Shouting. The clash of weapons. Damon was on his feet instantly, his sword drawn. Stay here. But before he could leave, an explosion rocked the camp. The tent shuddered. Screams filled the air. Nora ran outside. Chaos. Wolves fighting wolves. Miriam's allies, the ones who had profited from her trafficking, had launched an attack. They were trying to kill Damon, to kidnap Nora, to salvage what they could from the crumbling conspiracy. A rogue lunged at Nora, teeth bared. She stumbled back, her heart racing. Celine surged forward, and before Nora could think, she shifted. The white wolf erupted, massive and powerful. But this time, Nora was in control. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't afraid. She was done being prey. Celine's jaws clamped around the rogue's throat, and he went limp. Another attacker charged, and she met him head-on, claws tearing through flesh. Around her, the fighting intensified. Damon cut through enemies like a force of nature, his sword a blur of silver. His guards fought with brutal efficiency. And then Nora felt it. The pull. The power that lived inside her, ancient and vast. It rose from her chest, filled her lungs, and when she opened her mouth, what came out wasn't a howl. It was a command. One word, spoken in a voice that resonated with the power of the moon itself. Kneel. Every wolf in the camp, friend and foe alike, dropped to their knees. The fighting stopped mid-swing. Weapons clattered to the ground. Silence fell like a curtain. Nora shifted back into human form, standing naked in the center of the carnage, her eyes glowing silver. The power still hummed through her veins, intoxicating and terrifying. Damon was the first to rise. He approached slowly, his expression odd. That was Moon Voice. Only Luna-bonded wolves can command like that. Nora looked down at her hands. They were shaking. I didn't know I could do that. You have more power than you realize. The attackers were rounded up, disarmed, and dragged to the cells. The camp slowly returned to order. Someone brought Nora a cloak, and she wrapped it around herself, exhaustion crashing over her in waves. Damon led her back to the tent. Inside, he poured her a cup of water and sat across from her. You saved lives tonight, including mine. I didn't think. I just reacted. That's what makes you dangerous. And valuable. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I need to offer you a choice, Nora. You can come with me to the capital. Train. Learn to control your power. Help stabilize the packs before more alphas go mad. Or you can walk away. I'll give you gold, protection, and you can disappear. Live a quiet life somewhere far from all of this. Nora stared at him. You'd really let me go? You've spent 5 years being controlled. I won't add to that. The choice is yours. She thought about it. Running sounded tempting. Easy. But she had spent 5 years hiding, swallowing poison, letting fear dictate her life. She was done being small. I'll come with you, Nora said. But not as your mate. Not as your possession. As your equal. A partner in ending this madness. Damon smiled, and it was genuine. I wouldn't have it any other way. The next morning, Nora walked out of Raven Ridge Pack for the last time. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Behind her, the pack house stood silent, its leaders arrested, its secrets exposed. She wore clean clothes, her head held high. Celine hummed contentedly inside her, no longer caged, no longer afraid. Damon walked beside her, his guards flanking them. At the border, Nora paused and looked back. This place had broken her, but it hadn't destroyed her. She turned away and kept walking. She had spent 5 years swallowing poison to stay small. Now she would teach the world what happened when you forced a queen to rise.